Waypoints, back again for another exciting episode, and finally kind of getting back to somewhat normal through the summer. Back with you, Pastor Lyle of Tauti Baptist Church, and here with
Pastor Andy. Hey man, I missed you on our last episode.
I know. I got a chance to listen to that episode on family discipleship in Hungary, worldwide now, man. We are worldwide in this podcast. It might just be a couple people worldwide, but worldwide nonetheless. So no, that was a great episode. Y'all did a great job with that. A lot of incredible content and discussion. And so now you're just back to this, the beans and cornbread, back with Pastor Lyle and Pastor Andy for another great Waypoints episode. And we're right in the thick of summer, right? We got the heat going on, but in the midst of our summer, man, there's been just a lot happening, a lot going on, and summer is exciting. Not just ministry wise, but I mean, you think of summertime like growing up, right? There's all kinds of memories and things that we make. And so, do you have anything that you just was some of your favorite summertime memories?
Oh man, so I was kind of boring, younger and everything. Summertime, we normally just stayed at home. Growing up in Tucson, Arizona, when it's pushing 120 degrees outside, you really don't go outside to do stuff. But one of my favorite summer memories, it happened quite often. There's this church member at our church that we went to, and her name was Mrs. Sweeney, and she had a swimming pool. Yes. And so when it's pushing 120 degrees and someone with a swimming pool, man, it is a blessing.
Oh, yeah.
So going over to her house and her husband's house, Mr. Sweeney, just being able to swim, and they were fun. They were always encouraging and stuff like that. So
did they have a diving board?
They did have a diving board, and their pool was deep. It was like 13, 14 feet deep on the deep end.
Wow.
And so I almost drowned a couple times.
That's exciting. That would make a memory.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Getting the diving board, being able to perfect those special dives. We had my dad taught us a dive called the spider dive. The spider dive, where we'd jump off the diving board, and to watch my dad do it. I remember the first time he did it, we were in a hotel in St. Augustine, Florida, and he did it off the diving board there, and he jumps as high as he can in the air and just spreads out as far as he can. Looks like he's going to do a big belly flop right in the middle, and just before he hits the water, he closes up into a cannonball. And so it's like an art form of closing up right at the last minute, and it looks like a spider. So we called it the spider dive. That turned into many belly flops with my uncoordinated self, trying to do that until I learned. So, summertime, you have vacations, and we always did a 4th of July picnic at our house for our church. And I mean, that was always fun for the church. It was not fun because like the week leading up to that, Dad had us out there getting the yard ready, getting everything ready for it. And so that wasn't so much fun, but it was always fun having everyone there. Fireworks, all those good time things. Here recently has been a lot on my mind because, my uncle just passed away, and we would always vacation together. We'd go to Panama City, Florida, and there's a state park there, St. Andrew State Park, one of the best state parks I've ever been to. And they had beach access and bay access, and me and my cousins, we did this several years, and we would just go. We'd bring our bikes, and man, we would just cruise that whole state park. We went down to the bay, and we would do crab fishing. I mean, we caught a bunch of blue crabs one year, and we thought, hey, let's fix them at the camp, and so we boiled them, and we had never eaten crabs before. And we ate like the wrong parts of the crab. I mean, we ate the lungs, and we didn't eat the meat at all. It was terrible. One time they were having a shark tournament. It was going on, and this boat pulled into the bay there at the state park, and it had like a 450-pound hammerhead strapped to it.
Oh my gosh!
And so we all got pictures with it,
Yeah.
holding up one of the cousins on each side, holding up the front of the hammerhead. So a lot of really great memories of vacations and things together. But but our summer here, man, our summer here has just been incredible.
Yeah.
You
Been
know,
busy.
it's been busy.
Yeah.
The power summer, I think, is what we've been
Yeah.
labeling it. One thing after another. But man, I think we got to share something good that we've experienced here this summer. Different things that we've had, and of course, the Hungary trip
Yeah.
for me to be able to go to Hungary and to do that English day camp. Man, that was just incredible. So there was so much exciting things that happened in Hungary, and I know people are going to get tired of us talking about those, the different things that happened there. But man, just being able to meet and partner up with that church there, just so many special people that we got a chance to meet, and then the kids, and man, just I'll never forget the bringing the high fives to those kids.
Yeah.
Man, they were just swarming, and I guess no matter what culture you're in, the kids want, when they high five you, they want to make it as hard as possible.
Of course.
They want to try to break your hand, and so it is so funny to watch them do it, and then. So it was just incredible to see, and to see how many families showed up on family night, and being able to connect to those families and have them come up and say, "Hey, my kids couldn't stop talking about this camp, and they want you to come back next year." And so we're really praying that God uses that for the start of that church in Moorhalom, and to see some incredible things happened there. So there, one of the funny stories is one of the girls that came to the English day camp. She went home the year prior. She would go to a day camp. It wasn't necessarily an English speaking day camp type thing, but it was a day camp that the local Catholic church ran. And so she was used to go to that. And then this year she decided to go to this one. This is the first time they had done this. And at the end of the week, the parents came up to Pastor Mark and said, "No, yeah, our daughters loved it. She has loved being here." And she told us she doesn't ever want to go back to the Catholic one. She wants to go to the Baptist day camp. So, hey, chalk one up for the Baptist there.
That's
All right,
right.
we came through. What about you? What's something memorable from good from this summer that you that's on the tip of your mind?
Well, I'm right off the back of student camp right now. We just got back Sunday. And I'll tell you what, I'm not as young as I used to be, man. I'm still recovering.
But youth camp's nothing but vacation for youth pastors, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
I came back with my first gray mustache hair from camp.
The first of many.
First
Just
of
wait.
many. Yeah. And so now at camp, man, it was a phenomenal year for us as a group, for the students individually. That's one thing when I was looking for a camp, I was praying hard about, something to find where we can find unity with each other, where we can grow in Christ together. And, man, when we got there, God just started working things out immediately within 24 hours, just watching how he was working in the students. And I was like, I want to tell people, but I don't want to jinx anything or
right.
speak too soon. And so I waited before I started telling some people. But man, just watching the kids and seeing how God was working in their lives, the decisions they were making, of course, nothing like salvation or anything, but just dedications of how they're going to choose to live their life from now on. And so seeing that is exciting, seeing the unity that was built in that week. We came back a more unified group than we've been since I've started. And so, man, it was just amazing and exciting. And I can't wait to see it keep going past the summer into their pretty much whole future. Yeah.
And hearing some of the stories from my teenage daughter, it's been exciting to hear the spiritual emphasis and, what transpired there, and now to pray that it continues and keeps rolling. So many good things, so many exciting things. And, as we've mentioned, I think a big reason for that we have seen is the emphasis that we've been placing in prayer. From the prayer team starting in the kids week and then rolling from there, and just people, praying with us alongside with us in Hungary, people praying during camp and, the wristbands and praying for people.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things I had us focus on when we were there at camp was prayer.
Yeah.
Had the students pray for each other. Different people pray for different people every night. Don't pair up with the same person every night, and that was awesome to see. Just them getting together and praying with each other, because it's really hard to have feelings of animosity for someone that you're praying for.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's one of the quickest ways to unite hearts is prayer. When you are praying for another, when you listen to someone praying for you, it encourages you like nothing else. And then to be able to pray for that other person right there and pour them out before the Lord. I mean, it just brings people together. And we got to experience that with a prayer meeting in Hungary, and one would pray in Hungarian and one's praying in English. And it was just incredible. You didn't necessarily know everything they were praying for, but then you felt the presence of God. So yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to see what God's doing. And now got a chance to get back into some discussions on discipleship. But as we do that, we got a rally point.
All right.
And the rally point, I think, is just exciting because it's someone that's given us some feedback about the podcast. And so it comes from Victor. And he says, "Thank you for episode 8. I'm facing some obstacles today about priorities. It becomes tempting to just shut down and let life happen. But God has reminded me through this episode to stay focused on my commitments and realize that in life we are sometimes out of balance. Thank you." So, I mean, that's awesome. And again, Rally Points is all about any victory.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate the victories and celebrate what God's doing, even if it's just, hey, God brought this reminder to me, or God showed me this through his word, or, this happened and I was able to have a conversation with somebody else, so.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just to hear that encouragement, that, this is having a real world effect on people, and not just real world, but a spiritual effect on people as well. It is awesome. And just to be able to celebrate whatever God is doing in their lives, and then for Victor, of course, to sweeten the pot a little bit, we're gonna give him a Waypoints Podcast sticker for sending us a rally point. So hey, let that be motivation to you who have rally points and haven't sent them in yet. We'll get you guys a sticker.
We got stickers, of course. We've got stickers. Yeah, we got fresh Waypoints Podcast stickers, and so yeah, you send us in a rally point, we'll get you a sticker, because that's what we do. We have stickers. So yeah, and just exciting to hear that, and we want to continue to hear those real life stories of what's going on, and and that's been our prayer with this podcast, that we just find more avenues to get into people's lives and bring some content and bring some teaching and bring some discussion to help us grow, right? To grow closer to the Lord.
Absolutely.
And so as we get into our topic today, I got someone here with us, Andy.
Boy.
I brought someone along just so that we can always be reminded that Jesus is with us.
Oh, baby Jesus.
So I've got a little tiny Jesus, miniature Jesus, that I pulled from the stash in my office, thanks to our student ministry, that I continue to find these little Jesus everywhere in my office, but it's a reminder that Jesus goes with us everywhere. So I brought one along for our podcast today, and maybe he'll keep us on target.
You know what goes with me everywhere?
What's that?
Crickets.
Well, why would that be?
I guess while I was off at camp, someone decided to hide little cricket machines in my office that I haven't found yet.
Cricket machines. Now, who knows? Because when we hit cricket season, it might be real crickets.
That's right, yeah.
I don't know who would do such a thing. So today, as we jump into our topic today, we're going to look at some wrong ideas in some Jesus ideas in discipleship, because sometimes we can get off and follow some worldly ideas and worldly principles instead of what Jesus wants us to do. But just as a good way of refresher, when we talk about discipleship, we're talking about a daily journey to produce spiritual fruit and maturity in the life of the believer, growing towards that Christ likeness. And Waypoints is our avenue for that discipleship, our avenue at Tallahassee Baptist Church for discipleship, and to try to find all the little nooks and crannies to relationally bring content and discipleship to people is kind of our goal for that. And so when we look at discipleship and you look at it in culture, in church ministry life, the temptation to let discipleship be a program is very real.
Yeah.
Think about ways that we can take discipleship, and maybe if you think about just what you've seen other churches and how they approach discipleship, think about how some of the things that are done make it into just a checklist program.
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways I've seen is like Bible reading. They give out a Bible reading plan, and then you have your either class leader or whoever look at it, make sure you're doing it, check it off, and stuff like that. Seen it in that way. And I kind of have this idea with discipleship and programming, with checklists and stuff like that. I do think there needs to be a checklist, but in not to check it off, but as way markers to show this is how I'm growing.
There's got to be metrics.
Yes.
Right. There's got to be metrics to measure growth, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and you can't see that growth. But the problem is making the metrics the end.
Yes.
Making that the goal.
Yeah, and it's saying, it's it's like signing up to be an ordained minister online. You pay your $50, you get your ordained ministry degree, or whatever it is, and a certificate. That's right.
Yeah.
And then you're an ordained minister. Just because you're following practices that are biblical, just because you are doing XYZ does not make you a discipled believer. It does not make you a mature Christian. Sometimes it doesn't even make you a Christian. And so that's the danger we get when we have these when we have this checklist or program mindset in discipleship.
Also in programs we can think, oh, hey, I got this book study, and I want to go through this material, and all right, I've made it through this material. And even I've seen guys use this in one-on-one where they say, hey, we're going to work through this material. And so when they sit down and want, that's their only focus. They're like, oh, we got to get through this content. We got to get through this content.
Yeah.
Content is good, but content is also there to aid the relationship.
Right.
And when that takes over and becomes the main thing, we miss the relationship, and we miss the relationship aspect. Classes, sometimes they can, reduce it to a discipleship class. Student ministry, you hear a lot of the D-nows, right? And so it's like, and I understand, the format of D-nows can be very good if you put it, but that's not the whole process of discipleship.
Right. And apparently D-now is old school now. It's called The Weekend.
The Weekend.
The Weekend. A lot of churches are rebranding it to The Weekend.
Oh, The Weekend.
Yeah.
Okay.
But just stuff like that. Conferences on discipleship. They give you all these ideas, and here's what you need to do. Here's what, if you want your church to grow in discipleship, if you want to grow in discipleship,
buy this book.
Yeah, do this, buy this book. And then that all leads to a problem that I see. There's a lack of accountability in that, because that checklist, that program becomes your accountability partner. All right, I did it. Check. It's not someone you're walking with, observing you, holding you accountable.
And real evaluation, honest evaluation, not just, oh yeah, here's my rational check, and I can check myself off on it.
Yeah, because Scripture calls us that we should be walking together, that we should be growing with each other and holding each other accountable. Of course, we need to hold ourselves accountable, yes, but it's not all on us and a checklist.
Yeah. Well, and we're meant as a church body to come alongside one another, to encourage and to challenge and to hold each other accountable, and to keep each other from sin. And, you see that model with Jesus. You see how he, did thing in Mark 3:14 is a verse we've referenced several times about that Jesus ordained 12 that they should be with him, and then that he might send them forth to preach. So he took these guys and brought them with him. And you see that very relational aspect that introduced the accountability and the application and all those types of things. And so we've got to be careful in creating, even with Waypoints, we want to be careful in not making it a program, but a discipleship journey.
Right.
That's relational, and that is connecting people in that. And so that means it's important to have a blueprint, for discipleship and in that process. In your thinking and your experience, how many churches do you know of, or have you been a part of maybe that provide a blueprint for a discipleship process?
As far as I can recall, none.
Really?
Yeah.
And for the majority of time in the church that I grew up in, we didn't have a blueprint. We didn't have a process. And it wasn't until when my brother came and started our youth group and we got involved with Word of Life, they brought in a discipleship process. And Word of Life, they were heavily influenced by like the Navigators, and the Navigators are a big discipleship oriented group, and some different things, historically. And so there's a lot of discipleship content that came from that we began to do. And I began to see how that worked in my life, and in creating those things and the disciplines and discipleship groups with a leader and having that accountability and with them in our lives and asking questions and seeing the real-time measurements and helping guide us through different situations and through different questions. And so I think it's important. And when you look at, so like our church, the blueprint that we are trying to provide for this process of discipleship is, everybody starts in our ministry here at the church. Everybody gets acquainted with our ministry through worship. That's the first entry level, is people showing up for worship, right? And they're going to come for that 11 o'clock worship service. But then we want to see people develop beyond that and go to groups and get involved in groups and life points, connect to different opportunities for them to be in a group atmosphere, to learn, to get deeper, and not just the 1 hour a week in worship. And then from there, we want to see them get involved in a one-on-one, one-on-few type discipleship group where you can see more of that accountability, where you can have a coach or someone in your life that is able to ask some of the hard questions, that's able to help you grow relationally in that. And then that should lead to leading and multiplying. Our win that we talk about all the time is creating mature multipliers, people that grow up in maturity and then are actively multiplying into someone else, pouring into someone else. And that is a 2 Timothy 2:2 principle. The things that you've heard of me among many witnesses, same commit to faithful men who shall be able to teach others also. And so that's our process in an overview. And now we're trying to create tools to help along that process.
Yeah.
The Waypoints journals, things that help people get into the word and unpack the word, Life Point classes where you can come along with one another and get deeper in that group setting. The Wednesday night Bible studies, we're going through what we believe and different doctrines and things, and we're also now recording those and putting them on our YouTube channel, and hopefully soon we'll have a website up for Waypoints too, where people can go and do on their own time, get some of this content and grow in doctrines and biblical literacy.
Awesome.
Bible studies, men's, women's Bible studies, your student Bible studies that we have like in the fall and spring on Sunday nights. And then something exciting we're developing that hopefully will be rolling out this fall is coaching opportunities, where someone can have a coach come alongside them in a one-on-one, one-on-few type environment to be able to walk through life together, to walk through a lot of these disciplines together, to keep it relational beyond the checklist. And so we're excited about, some of that blueprint. And as we create this blueprint, we kind of juxtapose the worldly ideas versus Jesus ideas.
Yeah.
and we want to contrast, what the worldly kind of ideas of discipleship are, because regardless of what, we are all being discipled by something.
Yeah.
You're either being discipled by Christ in His Word and growing into Christ likeness, or you're being discipled by the world. You're pouring worldly content into your life, or godly content. And that's why being in the Word is so important. That's why being a part of a local church is so important, and being a part of teaching and preaching and serving and fellowship. All those things are important because they're a part of our discipleship process. Whereas if we're not, people are being discipled by CNN,
Yeah.
Fox News, Netflix, all those different things. They're being discipled by the internet. They're being discipled by the books they read, the different things. So we are all being discipled by something. And I think that was, a great point y'all made in the episode on family discipleship, of letting and making sure parents are intentional about that discipleship, because their students and their kids are being discipled whether they like it or not.
And one of the things is, especially with like kids and stuff, it's not just, it's an either or discipling. They're being discipled in both, but we have to make sure that we are discipling stronger in Christ, so they can have the discernment to know that when the world comes alongside and says, hey, this is what you need to do, they have the knowledge, they have the wisdom to reject that and to go and follow what is Christ-like.
Right. Yeah. And we got to be intentional, intentional. So I want to unpack a few things about some of the wrong ideas, and then, really gravitate towards the Jesus ideas. And some of these ideas, a lot of these themes, I found in one of the books I've been reading on discipleship, Emotionally Healthy Discipleship by Peter Scazzaro. And I have found this book very thought-provoking, very challenging. And this discussion in particular, I thought was really good. And I wanted to unpack a little bit of it, because I thought it was just very helpful. Some of the contrast that we see here, and really also defining a lot of aspects that go along with discipleship. And so when you think of worldly discipleship, he describes that as principles and methods that develop people and give meaning and purpose to people. And so when you look at how people develop their value systems today, so much of it is emotional. So much is, how does it make me feel?
Yeah.
Does it bring pleasure? Does it, and so that's how a lot of people bring about their values today. And so in that, we want to contrast that with the teachings and the methods of Christ and what He brought to us, and some of these things. So I want to unpack a few of the things that he discusses here in worldly discipleship versus Jesus's discipleship. And so the first thing he talks about is the idea of be popular versus reject popularity. Right? So being popular, it's, to be liked, enjoyed, admired by many people. And I mean, we have seen the rise in this, especially through social media. How many likes is this going to get? Because, I have a photography Instagram account, and I have a Facebook photography page. And I'll tell you, it's very tempting that when you post something out there in those pages and you want to know, hey, do people like this? Did people share this? And you can get focused on how popular is this? Is it going viral? Different things like that. And there is such a rise in the fame trend. And so when it comes to discipleship, sometimes we gravitate towards popular, right? Popular systems, popular thing. I mean, there's a lot of churches that will adopt a program from a larger church, because, hey, this larger church did it, so this must be effective because they have done it. So if this is effective, then we got to follow. So they follow these popular methods, these popular things, instead of, hey, what's our context? what does our community look like? What is going to be beneficial for our people? Instead of let's cookie cutter this and smash all our people into this. And a lot of times people get hurt in that process,
Right.
instead of grown up. And so instead of following after that, hey, let's be liked, let's be enjoyed, or even to the point of, hey, let's create a church culture that is popular, that is liked, that is enjoyed. I think that that motivation creates that seeker mentality, that consumeristic mentality, to make things so attractional that we dumb it down, we water down, we create a show, we create a production, instead of, being something of substance, of depth, of putting biblical content, regardless of if it's going to be liked or not, type thing in there.
Yeah.
And so when you look at the ministry of Jesus, you see how many times he rejected that popularity.
Mm-hmm.
What Jesus seemed to focus on was more about being substantive, being virtuous, being people of character, and from the heart, and really from biblical principle, versus, hey, what's popular. And he really clashed a lot of times with, like, the Pharisees and different ones with that. Matthew 6 gives us some great themes that go along with that. With different disciplines, like in Matthew 6, we see, he talked about giving, he talks about prayer, he talks about fasting.
Yeah.
And listen to these verses, because in it we kind of see what he emphasizes, and listen how it goes against popularity. Right. So Matthew 6, 1-4, in the theme of giving, he says, beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you that they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. What stands out there about, the contrast between popularity and what Jesus is saying?
I mean, yeah, it's of course it's using this visualization of giving and like the hypocrites, and it makes me think of like those like influencers who will find some random hobo on the street or something, and I'm going to give him $100. I'm going to take him out, buy him a meal, do this and that, and it appears like they're doing something nice, but man, they're doing it for the likes, they're doing it for the social media fame. And of course, Jesus saying, hey, they have their rewards, they have their popularity, they have their praise that they're getting from other people, but they're not going to get that blessing from God because they're not doing it in secret.
And in that, I think that's one of the interesting things about what he said, because truly they have received their reward. That's what he said. They have received their reward. How rewarding is popularity?
I mean, it's pretty fleeting and empty, because it's something you constantly have to chase.
Yeah.
There's really no reward in it. It just it's
yeah. Go ask Hollywood how rewarding popularity is when they are constantly hounded by paparazzi.
Yeah.
When they've got people following it, when every little detail is micromanaged, when every little aspect of their life is but hey, they're popular.
Yep. And then they cry out and say, I just want some privacy, I want this, I want that. But they've traded everything that really could be good for the sake of their popularity, for their influence, for their fame, and stuff like that.
Wouldn't that be a sad commentary for a church that was their reward? Hey, they became the popular church in town. They became popular, and they had the grand show, the grand everything, but they missed the praise of God. They missed the presence of God in that church.
Yeah, absolutely tragic.
I mean, that's very challenging to think about, and it should really recalibrate us around, hey, our services should be about the presence of God in our services, not, hey, is this the most liked Did everybody like everything, and did it attract everybody? No, it should be is the presence of God, the power of God in this. Man, there's a lot that we could apply with that. He goes on in with prayer in Matthew chapter 6, in verses 5 and 6. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, again, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room, shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. I mean, there again, you've got that. They received their reward.
Yeah, they get that attention. It's like those people who pray out loud and they use those long, verbose words and throw out some vocabulary that no one else can understand.
Right.
And it's really not. I'm not saying all people who do this for this reason, but it's really just to show off in front of other people. And that's what he's saying here. It's these like the Pharisees who would go out. They would pray in the synagogues. Oh, Father, I'm bad and I'm terrible, but at least I'm not as bad as this person over here. And
Yeah.
and just to show off their self-righteousness is what it was.
You know, and when I was a youth pastor at the church I was at, we'd have missionaries present on Sunday nights, and I'll never forget, this one missionary came, and for the whole first part, as he was presenting his work, you know, he was very conversational and very, you know, just normal, you know, in normal tones, and he was explaining their work, what they're going to be doing, and then it came time for him to preach. And he started preaching, and then his whole demeanor changed.
Yeah.
It changed, and you could tell that he had been to a school of preaching that was all about the hellfire and brimstone, and you got to yell to make your
intensity
points
of your preaching.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, his whole demeanor changes. He's getting red faced. The volume changes. It was so out of character.
Yeah.
And it just became a show, and it totally changed everything. And you know, I think that when you're praying like this in front and they've received their reward, okay, they've been seen, and again, they've missed the power and presence of God, right? You know, we don't want our discipleship to just be popular. We want it to usher people into that power and presence of God, not so that people will come and, all right, let's follow the Talty Baptist Church method of the discipleship, and let's package this and put it out there, and you know, and sell all this. No, that's not what it's about. It's about, are we bringing people to Christ and growing them up in Christ?
Yeah.
You know, then he goes on to fasting. They do the same thing with fasting in Matthew 6:16 through 18. And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. You know, it's interesting. You look at those three different areas, and it highlights the principle here that, you know, the worldly popularity versus Jesus's reject popularity.
Yeah.
And you see the contrast. In popularity, their reward is being popular, being seen by others, being famous in this worldly context. What's the opposite of that? He says, so that your Father sees you.
Mm-hmm.
Your Father who sees in secret, he will reward you. So what is a better reward? You know, the worldly popularity and being lifted up and praised by this world, or having the Father say, well done, thou good and faithful servant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that we got to keep before us every day, because it is so hard to not want to go after that worldly idea of popular, and even the worldly popular Christian ideals that are out there. You know, sharing the certain memes on Facebook of, you know, to show that you're a Christian. I'm not saying that sharing Christian memes is bad, because, you know, I do it.
Yeah.
We all do it in different things. What I'm saying is, if you are making that the mark of your Christianity to say, look how good of a Christian I am, and there's no relationship behind that, and that's all you do, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a prop. instead, we need to be seeking after for the Father. And hey, how can we use that to point others to Jesus and bring others to Jesus, even in sharing a meme? What's our goal in it? We should find more value in glorifying God than in getting the worldly attention.
Absolutely.
I always heard it described as the audience of one. That we are looking for that applause from the audience of one. 1 Corinthians 10:30, and whether therefore you eat, drink, whatsoever you do all to the glory of God. And Colossians 3:23 is in the same mindset, and whatever you do in word and deed, do all to the glory of God. And I think a great question to curb that popularity is to ask, is Jesus enough for me? If I just made Jesus happy and this world was not happy with me, but Jesus was happy with, is that enough? Because that's a temptation. It's a temptation because we want to hear the applause. We want to hear the affirmations. We want to hear those different things. And we got to ask, is Jesus enough? And is it greater than the worldly noise? So that's one item, the be popular versus the rejecting the popularity.
Yeah.
The next idea that he talks about is being great versus rejecting greatism.
Boy.
All right. I think it's important that we define this here, because it's not saying that we shouldn't strive for excellence in doing great things,
right.
But the worldly idea of great, the worldly idea of great that leads to pride and self-righteousness. So it's like a sense of ambition that drives you to pride and self-promotion, and so that kind of great, I'm a lot more into the world of the WNBA now because my daughter loves basketball and so watching different things and so I watched this, the feuds between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and the different things that are out there and now you've got,
she needs to change her first name.
Yeah, not quite an angel, but you look at the back and forth and all this stuff and you see some of the expansion of the league that's happening because of the influence of Caitlin Clark and some of and it's apparent that because of that influence there's been an increase and Angel Reese wants to be a part of that. And I'm not saying that she hasn't drawn people and been there, but it's not on the same par as Caitlin Clark to a certain extent, but she's out there and she says things like, I'm the face of this league. She wants that ambition and pride, to overtake that. And so when you look at what Jesus says, Jesus promotes, hey, be selfless.
Right.
And that's what he points to the true greatness, right? Is all about being selfless. And he wanted people to do great things.
Mm-hmm.
But his definition of great is vastly different than the world's definition. Right. And so when you think of what Jesus promotes as great, how would you define his idea of greatness or being great?
For me, it would be service, really. Service to people and service to God. I mean, you look at the world and you contrast it with the worldly idea of being great. The worldly idea of being great is really, again, self-promotion, self-righteousness. It's prideful. It's really getting your name on top of it, on top. I mean, you look at, we have terms like GOAT, like greatest of all time.
Right.
And you have to think what these people like Tom Brady. I don't care what people say. Dude is the GOAT of quarterbacks as of right now.
It's hard to hear that.
Yeah. Michael Jordan, GOAT of basketball players. Some will say LeBron.
Unquestionable.
Yeah.
Unquestionable.
And so, but you look what these guys had to do. They had to invest in themselves. They had to push themselves. They had to drive themselves. And it's all about self there. When Jesus is calling us to be great, he's calling it's awesome because he's actually calling us to be lesser. Not
lesser in the eyes of the world.
Yes, lesser in the eyes of the world. When on the opposite side, we're becoming greater in God's eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like this passage of scripture. I think illustrates that perfectly. Matthew 20 through 28 says, then the mother of the sons of Zebedee came up to him with her sons. So she's bringing James and John with Jesus, and kneeling before him, she asked him for something. And he said to her, what do you want? And she said to him, say that these two sons of mine are to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left in your kingdom. All right. She's saying, I want you to take my sons and I want them to be your right hand and left hand.
I want them to have the two most powerful positions in the
Yeah.
kingdom besides you.
Yeah. And most recognizable, most elevated, most honorable. And then what Jesus says, he says, Jesus answered, you do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I am to drink? So man, that's a question right there. And before we get to the rest of the passage, he says, are you able to drink the cup that I am about to drink? And that cup that he was about to drink was that cup of pouring out the self.
Yeah.
That was it. And when you look at Philippians chapter 2, we know that at the name of Jesus, every knee is going to bow, every tongue is going to confess that Jesus is Lord. But how did he get to that point? He got to that point. He is exalted to that point because he poured himself out, being obedient even to the point of death. That's the cup. Are you able to drink the cup that I am able to drink? In other words, are you able to partake of the selflessness to the level that I'm about to do? And they said to him, we are able. And he said to them, you will drink my cup, but to sit at my right hand and my left hand is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared by my Father. And when the 10 heard it, they were indignant at the two brothers. But Jesus called them to him and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. It shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant. Whoever would be first among you must be your slave. Even as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. I mean, that'll preach.
Yeah.
When you look at that, because he says, listen, the Gentiles, they use their position to lord over people, to exercise that authority over them. He said, but that's not the greatness that I am defining. The greatness that is defined by the Father is when you are a servant.
Yeah. Yeah. He's saying, you got to use this greatness. You got to use your power. You got to use your authority, not for your personal gain, but to serve everyone. You are the lowest of the low.
And when you put that into the discipleship context, then you really then begin to see a barometer for growth by how people are seeking to serve people versus seeking position, seeking title, and wanting those things. It's always kind of a red flag when people want the title before the work, when they want to have a position, when they want to have a title and different things, but they don't want to serve and put in the work behind the scenes and not get recognition to produce that kind of title.
Yeah.
And so we got to be careful in that mindset, because then they're going to take the title, they're going to take that position and use it for authority and use it to force people to do things and to bow to their wills and way. And sometimes it's just, I want people to do what I want them to do, my way, the highway type mentality, instead of, hey, how can I use my opportunity, my position, my title to serve, right? And to serve people. Peter Scazzero, he gives some great questions for evaluation in describing this, and I want to give those, because I think they're really good for us to kind of write down to kind of keep us in check. He says, when are my plans and ambitions legitimately for the glory of God, and when do they cross the line into my own desires for greatness? And I think that is a great evaluative question. Do I really want this for God's glory, or am I doing it for my own greatness? And he also asked, what opportunities has God placed before me to be lowly with the lowly, to be little with the little? My dad used to always say, if you can't mop the floor, you can't run the company. And sometimes it's that kind of humbling. Am I willing to do even the lowliest of things, not seeing it as demeaning my position, but as an opportunity to see the advancement of the mission, right? The whatever it takes mentality of, it's not about I'm too good for this, I'm too good for that. It's about whatever it takes to do what God is calling us to do. All right. So being great, the worldly idea of great versus rejecting that greatism and following what Jesus defines as great, which is making ourselves a servant and serving others. Another section that he talks about in this worldly idea versus Jesus' idea is being successful versus rejecting successism. All right, so how would you define a worldly idea of success?
A worldly idea of success. It's that idea of always getting more. To break it down into a statement that I hear, really not students much anymore, but like, let's get this bread, meaning let's go out and let's get some more money. Let's be successful. Let's do this.
Some good bread is better than money, man.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Get some bread,
for
some
sure.
Texas Roadhouse rolls or something.
There we go. But yeah, it's like it's this whole thing of keeping up with the Joneses. We got to get the latest and greatest things. New flat screen TV came out. I got to go get that. The newest Maserati came out. I got to go get that.
All right, hang on. I don't need you to do that. I don't want you to step on my toes there.
I know. The newest camera or something came out.
Keep moving. Keep moving.
Yeah. But no. Yeah, I mean it's really just that mindset of bigger is always better. So I need to pursue that and successful without trying to, but just getting that in.
Right.
Yeah.
Not using the word in the definition.
Right.
Yeah. And that can be so deceptive. I think it's important to remember that Jesus himself had followers turn away because their ideas, success and what they were looking for in him was not what, he was showing. And so we can let success become an idol, right? And we can chase after that success. Whereas Jesus pointed us to be faithful, be faithful. And to think about how Jesus would define success. I've heard this great definition of it. And that is that becoming the person God calls you to become and doing what God calls you to do. Being faithful to what God calls you to do, what God is wanting you to do. And sometimes that is not necessarily going to be seen as successful in the world's eyes. But yet God is going to use that to produce those types of things. And that starts with being before doing. Who we are in Christ before what we do. I tell you, that is such a hard thing sometimes to get beyond, because we are such a doing oriented society and culture of what you can do and your talents, your things, what you can offer that way really is the path to success, instead of, no, who are you? Who are you? What is your character, your integrity, and the values that are coming from the inside out? And so really you are failing if you're not faithful and working towards that. A great example of this in scripture is, the Mary and Martha situation in Luke 10:38-42.
Yeah.
It says, now as they went on their way, Jesus entered a village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet and listened to his teaching. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she went up to him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her then to help me. But the Lord answered her, Martha, Martha, you are anxious and troubled about many things, but one thing is necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, which shall not be taken away from her. And what Jesus is trying to get Martha to see the value system. Let there be the being before the doing.
Yeah.
It wasn't that necessarily what Martha was doing was bad. It's that she had it out of order. She she had it out of order, and Mary had chosen the good portion, which was to sit at the feet of Jesus and to work with him. And I think it's important for us to remember, especially in discipleship, is that success starts with the relationship.
Mhm.
It starts with the relationship with Jesus, for us to behold him and have a relationship with him before what we do. Let the doing come from the beholding. Let it come from the relationship with God. Because so many times we jump ahead of ourselves and we try to run before we walk, and we want to do all these incredible things, but we don't have the relationship with God to hold us and sustain us through those things. There's no substance.
Yeah, it reminds me of the story in the Bible of Abraham when God promised him that he was going to have his boy, and
Yeah.
he went and he rushed ahead rather than waiting on God,
Oh,
and
yeah.
he rushed ahead and he had another son, and that just caused a bunch of issues.
Yeah. To put it
Yeah,
mildly, causing some issues,
but
right?
yeah, it reminds me of that, because we want that success, we want it now, and that's just, of course, I think that's just because of the society that we have grown in, the culture that America has become. It constantly pushes that success, but
Right.
it's pushing that worldly idea
Idea.
of
Yeah.
success.
Because and it's so hard, even in church life, to equate success with what we do. What does our calendar look like? What kind of activities are we doing? Are we, doing enough outreach? Are we doing enough of this? Are we doing enough of that? Do
Yeah.
we have this going on? Do we have this program? Do we have this thing out? And when I've seen so many church advertise, hey, we got this going on, and we've got childcare, and we got this program, and they start talking about all the different things that they can offer,
Right.
the things that they can do. And I think we get away from the question of, but are we beholding Christ?
Yeah.
Are we building our relationship with Christ? I mean, if we have all the flashy stuff, then we've got all the flashy stuff. But if we don't have the presence of Christ, the glory of God, it's not filling that place. It's just dead.
Yeah.
It looks pretty, but it's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. That also reminds me of like when you either go to pastors' conferences or youth pastors' conferences, you meet other pastors and stuff like that, and they say, "Hey, how are you? What's your name? Where are you from?" And then that third question is almost always, "What kind of numbers you got?"
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
And I try to be, as real as possible, because, but it's a very frustrating question, because we have come to judge that as being successful.
Right.
But how do you tell somebody, man, the Spirit's moving? I think we got to emphasize salvations and baptisms and discipleship. How many people do we have engaged in a discipleship process?
Yeah.
We got to change that.
Yeah. That mindset of success.
Mhm.
Of course, going to numerical things. It's not that, how, like you said, how is the Spirit working in your church? How is the Spirit working in the believers that God has placed under your care? That type of stuff. That's what really matters. That's what real success is.
I think about even that in the individual, because there are those individuals out there that are feeling like they are not being used of God, and because they're not doing these incredible things. There are pastors out there that probably feel they aren't being used of God because they're not asked to speak at conferences or those types of things, or they're not known. There's individual people in our churches that probably feel like they're not, these great Christians because they aren't having all these incredibly, uh, uh, really dramatic testimonies and all these things, but yet they're being faithful. They're doing what God has called them to do. And that faithful Christian is, they have a prayer life where they're lifting up people in prayer on a daily basis, and they're in their word daily and pulling something, and they're just trying to draw close to God any way that they can, and they're faithful to his house, and they're faithful to his people, and they care about people. God can use that in so many ways, so much more. That was one of the stark contrast that we saw in Hungary, when, in Hungary, they are 90% professed to be Catholic. All right. So predominantly Catholic in the church. And when you or when in the country. And so they have these incredible churches. Like when we were in Szeged, we went to the Dome of Szeged, one of the big churches there in Szeged. And man, you look at it and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what our budget is for just trying to build the simple building that we're trying to do for a new sanctuary. I can't imagine how much money was put into this place. So it was ornate. And just on the outside, just the architecture and things on the outside was just incredible. Then you walked in on the inside, and I mean mosaics, stained glass windows. Every inch of their walls was some kind of mosaic, some kind of story, some kind of depiction with all kinds of ornament, gold overlays, just incredible art all throughout. And it's just, I mean, it just looks beautiful. And of course, I'm sitting there taking pictures. I love the architecture, all these different things.
Yeah.
But then to find out the place is more of a museum than it is a church. And it's just missing so much of the presence and power of God, so we can't allow that worldly idea of success to overtake the relational being with him and the presence with God, and letting that fuel our doing.
Yeah.
Don't get discouraged if it looks like everything on the outside is you're not being successful. If you are just cultivating a relationship with God on a daily basis, God is going to use that faithfulness somehow, some way. Be faithful, continue in that as well. There's many different contrasts when we look at this and when we see these different things. We brought out just a few of these aspects, and I think it helps us kind of govern our discipleship process to make sure that we are keeping that Christ likeness as the goal, keeping that moving forward, watching out for those obstacles. And so, a few things that we can do to overcome those worldly wrong ideas is to make time to behold and listen to Jesus. Make that relationship with him so key. Spend time in the Word and letting God speak to you. Spend time in prayer, and just communicating with the Lord, pouring your heart out, not only in request, but just communion with him, and dialoguing with him and through prayer, build that relationship. And then rest in his work. Rest in his work. Rest in the gospel that your salvation is not dependent on how great you are.
Yeah.
Your salvation is dependent on the work he did, and he said, it's finished. And so when I came to Christ, and when I have the blood of Christ applied to my life through that repentance and confession of him, then I can rest in his work and know that my relationship is not based on how good I am. I get to now become good and work towards good because of how good he is. And I flip that into a worship. Rest in his work. Rest in what he's done. Breathe in that. And then let that fuel the doing. And that means worship through your life. Let your actions be worship and not just obligation. Let the things that you do, the witness that you are for Christ, the disciplines that you add in your life, let that just be an action of worship versus, well, I have to do this. The checklist mentality.
Yeah.
Let it be worship that, no, I do it because he's worthy. I do it because he loved me and I love him. 1 John 4:19 tells us we love him because he first loved us. And so let that worship then fuel that. And it'll help us kind of keep in check from those wrong ideas, from those pressures of success and greatism and popularity, and how they can take us away from a truly discipleship mentality.
Yeah.
So, hey, and hopefully, some of this discussion, kind of helps in not only teach us, but encourage you. I hope that it encourages you to keep on working on beholding and growing in Jesus, know him, grow in love for him, show that love to others. Let that be seen through your life. So as we close out this episode today, just a constant reminder, we'd love to hear from you, love to hear questions, comments, your rally points. Let us celebrate these victories with you. And don't forget stickers. If you send us a rally point, we got a sticker for you. All right. And water bottles not included. You get to get your own water bottle to put it on, but we got a sticker. No, we want to hear from you. You can email them to me at lyle@taltybc.org. And that's Lyle, Lyle. All right. I've come to realize that people at Chick-fil-A and Starbucks have not seen the name Lyle very often.
Oh gosh.
And I got one the other day, Loa.
Loa?
Loa. How do you get Lyle as Loa? But anyway, and it's not Nolan either. It's Lyle, Lyle at taltybc.org. Love to hear that response and comments from you. And if you're enjoying the content, if you're enjoying the podcast, please just like, share it, and share it not so that we become popular, but that someone else can be encouraged by it. If you think it's helpful, share it so someone else could be encouraged by it. And comment, let us know what we can do better, and how we can constantly improve in getting the content to you and into your life. And just don't forget, as you go every day worshiping through your life, find a way to know God, to grow in love for God, and to show God's love today.